Well, the Middle East and Asian nations have expressed their concern over escalating clashes between Armenian forces and Azerbaijani military in the Upper Karabakh, Nagorno-Karabakh region. Iran called on Azerbaijan and Armenia to end the conflict and start talking. Tehran is keeping a close watch on the conflict with concern, and this has been confirmed by a foreign ministry spokesperson, Saeed Khatibzadeh. Iran is ready to use all its capacities to establish a ceasefire and start talks between the two sides. Khatibzadeh also, in fact, reiterated this stance. The US President Donald Trump said that the US is looking into what can be done to stop the violence between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Trump told that the US has a lot of good relationships in that area, and we will see if we can try and stop the conflict, is what Donald Trump reiterated. Pakistan threw its weight behind Azerbaijan following Armenia's border violations and attacks in Upper Karabakh. Pakistan said, and I quote, that Pakistan stands with the brotherly nation of Azerbaijan and supports its right of self-defense, the foreign ministry said in a statement. And we'll talk about this with our guest on this particular hour. Joining me on the platform is Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Major General Dhruv Katoch, defense and strategic expert, director of the India Foundation, also joins us on the program. Sumit Peer, political analyst, is here with us as well. And last but not the least, Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian. In fact, let me start by asking a very simple question to you, Ambassador Sajjanhar, that Pakistan, while it wants to prevent war, it does show solidarity with Azerbaijan. Does it really have the right or the capacity or the turpitude and the scruples to, in fact, support anybody when it comes to morals? Ambassador Sajjanhar, if you can hear me, sir.
Yes, I can hear you, Vineet. Loud and clear.
Okay, Ambassador Sajjanhar, the first and a very direct question for you. Pakistan says that it supports its brothers in Azerbaijan, but at the same time, how proper is it coming from Pakistan, a country which is replete with human rights violations and it's replete with instances of mistreating minorities? What kind of
I lost you, Vineet. I lost you. I can't hear you.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, can you hear me now? Okay, we'll try and get the audio fixed.
It's gone.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, if you can hear me, sir. If you can hear me now.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. So let me just get a quick analysis of what's happening in Azerbaijan and with Armenia, according to you, and then we'll move on to some other details.
Okay, the way I look at it, because, Vineet, I was in Armenia last year. In fact, actually, I visited the whole region, Artsakh and Stepanakert, which is the capital of Artsakh, which is an Armenian ethnically dominated area. And that has been, it's an independent republic, but it has very good relations with Armenia. So the problem, as I can see it, is that Armenia and Artsakh has all the territory that it wants. So for Azerbaijan, it sounds very, very unreasonable. Of course, the whole thing started only on the morning of 27th September, just 2 days ago. So, exact details we will come to know later. But I remember when I was there and I had conversations with a large number of people, with different segments of people, all of them want a negotiated settlement with Azerbaijan. And it has Azerbaijan, which has been threatening that it will launch attack, aggression, and it will sort of, take away the territory that it claims to be its own. And now what we have seen is that Azerbaijan is being supported by Turkey. Turkey has come out in so many words saying that, we will support Azerbaijan to reclaim its territory. I think that is also to be expected because ethnically, both Turkey and Azerbaijan come from the same origin, from the Turkic origin. So there is not only are they neighbors, they have proximity as far as the two countries are concerned, but ethnically also, and of course religion and race, both these people, Azeris and the Turks, they are very, very close together. And here it seems to be also a bit of a religious angle, because Armenian and Artsakh, they are all Christians, they're all Orthodox Christians, and they have good relations with Russia. So we have these two structures now, so to say, opposing each other. But I think what is really the important thing is that there should be a ceasefire. Whatever needs to be done should be through dialogue, and a large number of countries have stated that. And of course, I think, as you mentioned very briefly right at the beginning, that Pakistan has also jumped into the fray. I'm not at all surprised, because Turkey has been supporting Pakistan all the way. And if Pakistan sort of feels that it is an important arena to burnish its own Islamic religious credentials, then it will also jump in, so to say. But I feel that what Azerbaijan is claiming, that Armenia attacked it on the morning of the 27th, that sounds most unreasonable to me. It appears more likely that it is Azerbaijan who attacked Armenia, Artsakh, as Armenia has claimed on the morning of at 8 o'clock on the morning of the 27th of September. And now I think there are latest reports which seem to suggest that Azerbaijan is not only now attacking the territory of Artsakh, but also Armenia per se, which I think is a dangerous escalation. And of course, all of us are aware that the BTC pipeline, the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline flows through that region. So not only as far as security, stability, peace in the region, but also energy flows through the region could also be very severely affected as a result of this conflict.
Absolutely, General Katoch. In fact, the United States has called for de-escalation. Iran has called for de-escalation, but Pakistan and Turkey, what they say in Hindi, ulti ganga beh rahi hai. They are in fact fanning this kind of violence. They are fanning this, this flare-up in the region. What do you think could be the ulterior motive for Turkey, especially because we really don't know whether in this case Pakistan is supporting Turkey or is Turkey supporting Pakistan?
No, I think as far as Turkey is concerned, they have been playing up to their home audience in their self-image as being the leading nation amongst the Islamic countries. I think for Turkey, the way I've looked at it is simply a power play to tell the Muslim world that we are the leaders now. They have been trying to do that and displace Saudi Arabia for quite some time. So for Turkey, it is a religious angle. And the support to Azerbaijan from Turkey is not new. It has been ongoing for a very long period of time. Now, Pakistan is really the surprise element, because the Pakistani political establishment has even gone to the extent of saying that we will send military force to support the Azerbaijanis. Now, that I think is is a bit far-fetched. Despite the fact that they have made those claims, I do not see Pakistani extending direct military support to the region. In fact, I personally feel that will be counterproductive. However, Pakistan will continue to extend political and diplomatic support. They don't have any money to give, but political and diplomatic support certainly, and there they will be along with the Turks. So the Turkey has supported Pakistan, let us be very clear, as far as the FATF is concerned, and along with Turkey, Malaysia and China, they are the only three countries because of whose support Pakistan remained out of the blacklist. So Pakistan has got its interest. There's one final point I want to give here. I think Pakistan is also appealing towards home audience. They've not been able to do too much on the economic front or on the military front against India. So now they want to open up a new dialogue to say, okay, an Islamic country is being threatened and we will come in their support. I don't think this will have much credibility, because the Pakistani media has already trashed it. And the Pakistani media has gone on to state, instead of sending troops to Azerbaijan, why doesn't the army do something and take Kashmir? So I think the media is on a different track, the government is on a different track. As far as the Pakistan military is concerned, I'm absolutely certain they are not going to send troops to Azerbaijan to fight somebody else's war.
Absolutely. They, in fact, should be worried about fighting their own war. And Joyita, Azerbaijan and Armenia perhaps could be on the verge, as per local media reports, they could be on the verge of a full-fledged war. What kind of a role do you think Turkey is perhaps hoping to play in this conflict? And even Russia might be pulled into this conflict if it escalates any further. And considering what's been going on in Syria for the past 7 to 8 years, do you think that is a conducive measure for the region, and perhaps powers like the United States and perhaps even India should jump in and try and stop this conflict from escalating any further?
Vineet, was that question to me?
Yes, Joyita.
Okay, if I think there's a slight problem with your audio because I could barely hear it, but from whatever I could make out, you're asking about the Russian angle and of course what happens about the India, that oil part that you're talking about. So you see, when you're talking about Russia, this is very interesting. If you look at it, Russia is backing Armenia, and Russia and Turkey have a kind of a love-hate relationship, or they're in certain areas they are partners, strategic partners. In other areas they do not like each other. And then there is so basically, if you're looking at it, it is a particular coalition. If you're talking about in terms of polarity, one particular pole that has been developing, the problem has started inside that. If Russia is getting involved if it gets involved in the Armenian side, and if Pakistan wants to support Azerbaijan, how will Russia and Pakistan reconcile on this? It's all very complicated, and it's good. If you ask me, it's good because you let them fight amongst each other. But having said that, you see, bloodshed is not allowed, war cannot happen, and yes, there is a serious risk that if this escalates, because from Baku and all, because Azerbaijan is so oil rich and all, there is a real threat to the pipelines over there. And you see, both these countries, both Armenia and Azerbaijan, they have got very modern military hardware. And if this war actually starts from this particular, this autonomous country that is calls itself an independent country, from there to actual conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, then it's a real problem. Something like this happened sometime in 2016. I think there was a 4-day war, but that was kind of controlled. They have a long history of enmity. There's a long history of enmity between Turkey and Armenia also. They're talking, right down to the First World War, right from that time, and genocide of Armenians and all, which Turkey has been refused. Acknowledge that there was a genocide. So there's a long history. But we should be very, and what we can do in terms of, we can at the most try to tell them that, listen, don't get into a war, because everybody's interests are involved. This region is very, very important and very unstable also.
Okay, Sumit, the focus of this entire situation in that part of the world has to be Turkey. Erdogan taking unusual interest in what's happening between these two countries is not without any motivation, Sumit. We know that he has his own tendencies to, in fact, rule that part of the world. He wants to be the Khalifa of the Islamic world as well. How does this support fit into that larger gamut or that larger aspiration that Turkey's leader has?
Vineet, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. I see it slightly in a different view, Vineet, because you have to ask a right question. What is Pakistan doing here? And what is Turkey doing here? Now, incidentally, Pakistan and Turkey are both puppets or hired guns of China. Now, what is this? A very complex question. What I see, Vineet,
okay,
is a very, very dangerous thing.
Okay, you've given a completely new perspective to this, Sumit. All right, I appreciate that. You've given a new perspective to this. All right, go ahead.
Okay, the China is trying to start a clash of civilizations here. You see, there's a flashpoint, this Karabakh region, and there has been a small war here and there. Now, today, Azerbaijan has all the arsenal from Turkey. And Putin has already spoken to the Prime Minister of Armenia. So what China is doing, because Armenia is Christian dominated and Azerbaijan is Muslim dominated. So through his puppets, China is supporting this Muslim bloc and inciting them to go on a war. Because I was reading something recently in the media reports. Recently, some tanks of Azerbaijan have been destroyed by Armenia. So the tanks belong to Azerbaijan. Now you are entering Putin's Arctic Circle, which is his exclusive circle of influence. So what are you doing? You are pushing Vladimir Putin to act. He has already spoken to the Armenian Prime Minister, and he is kind of giving them support. Though everybody is talking of peace right now, European Union is backing behind the Armenia. And incidentally, a lot of pipelines go through that region. So Erdogan is looking for oil. China is looking to start this, clash of civilizations and to rule the world. So everybody gets something out of this. So we have to be very careful. We have to see these are mere puppets. These Pakistan. Otherwise, there is no role for Pakistan in Europe. Pakistan ko to apne ghar ki nahi pata. What is he doing in Europe? Because it's on the behest of China. Pakistan and Turkey, two puppets of China, are making these two fight. So the director is China. Puppets are Pakistan and Turkey, and the actors are Armenia and Azerbaijan. The world has to be very, very careful. We should not walk into this Islam versus Christianity clash, which is orchestrated by Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping is losing ground everywhere. Is this his last gamble? Is he trying to try his luck here? Because we have stopped him in Ladakh. He cannot do anything in India. He cannot do anything in Asia. Now has he shifted his focus? Erdogan gets the supremacy. He's supporting the nation and he gets oil.
Right.
That's the
Okay, well, that's a unique perspective. Like I said at the onset of your reaction as well, Sumit. Let's in fact get a response from Ambassador Sajjan. Ambassador Sajjan, do you think this is perhaps a larger game which is being played by China? Obviously, let's not look at things in silos, is what Sumit is saying. If this is being motivated by China, then it's a concern for everybody, including us.
Well, you could look at it this way, but frankly, I do not feel that at this moment China will be in too much of a hurry to pick up new fights so far away from its own territory. It has its hands full, and and this issue, as we've been talking about, it really comes to us from the Soviet times, from the time of Joseph Stalin, when he gave the ethnically Armenian, ethnically dominated region of Artsakh to Azerbaijan. And then just around the time, just before when the Soviet Union was to disintegrate, that time the Armenians protested and demonstrated and managed to take back this region from Azerbaijan, from the Muslim Azerbaijan, and declare an independent republic, autonomous republic, of course, with very strong links with Armenia. So this issue has been festering for quite some time. It's not a new thing that, China, which is now, trying to flex its muscles, and it said that, this is a right opportunity. It's not a new issue. In 2016 also we had some problems, some conflicts in the same region. In July of 2020, there were some altercations on the border. So this has been going on for some time, and as I said, when I was there last year, I could, and my conversations with the people told me that the Artsakh region, the people in Armenia, they want peace, they want dialogue, they want negotiations. But from the other side, from Azerbaijan, it has been, they have been very, very clear that they want this region back. It was with them for some time during the Soviet times, so they want it back. And Turkey has always been, meaning Turkey has very strong interest there. Not only that both Armenia and Turkey have been at daggers drawn with each other because of the genocide of the Armenians in 1914, but also because ethnically, as I mentioned, Azeris and Turks are very, very similar. And after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, Turkey has also been trying to establish its own control over all these regions, whether it is Azerbaijan, it is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. All these countries, it is sort of, has had pan-Turkic organizations which it has put in place. There is a pan-Turkic parliamentary assembly, and so for language, for promotion of culture, and so on and so forth. So the relations between Azerbaijan and Turkey are very thick. And they're of course also neighbors. They share the same border. So they are very, very close, and I'm not at all surprised that Turkey has come into play so very actively. And frankly, I'm not also very surprised that Pakistan has come into play, because again, it has so many failures on its domestic front. It has so many failures as far as its relations with India are concerned. So So I think it must have seen one opportunity where it can flex muscles and, basically for its domestic audience, it can show that, it matters in some particular areas in the world. So I think it makes eminent sense for both of them. But I agree with General Katosh that I will not bet on seeing Pakistani soldiers or forces, boots on the ground as far as this conflict is concerned. I think it's good to make statements, but that is not would be the same for Turkey. Turkey, I think, if required, both in terms of troops as well as it is apparently understood that there are some forces which were fighting in Syria, which have been directed to Azerbaijan to launch this offensive against Artsakh and Armenia. So I think this is dangerous. It has potential of growing out of hand. We have a meeting of the UN Security Council taking place today, and I hope they will be able to impress upon both sides to reduce the hostilities and to come to the negotiating table, and Russia should be able to get into the picture and try to calm nerves and calm the rising temperature.
Absolutely. And General Katoch, in fact, the Armenians have complained for the longest time, for decades now, that there has been a breach of international law time and again, and world bodies have done nothing about it. And that is the reason they say they want to take this into their own hands. Now, if every country sets out to do this, then we perhaps are looking at conflict sporadically all over the world.
Actually, yes, because when Armenia has made that statement, I think there is a case in point. The world body has not really delivered on all fronts. But to give due credit to the world body, I think it has at least prevented major conflagrations. So we have small wars or minor wars all across the world, but we haven't had that one big clash like World War I and II. So to that extent, I think the UN has been quite successful. On the other points which have just come out, I really don't think this is going to be, at least here, the flashpoint is not going to turn into a religious war. At some point of time, you may actually have a clash of civilizations, but I don't see that clash taking place here. It's very funny when you're looking at Russia, which is supporting Armenia. Russia is also in a treaty called the Collective Security Treaty Organization. It was formed in 1992, where Russia and Armenia are there. And then you've got Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and the other countries there. And they are Muslim. And when you're looking at Turkey supporting Azerbaijan, Turkey is a part of NATO. And I don't see any of the other NATO countries coming into this particular fight. Iran, which is a Muslim country, is supporting Armenia, which is Christian. I mean, if you simply want to take the religious angle. So this is not going to be a religious conflagration. I think what has really happened here is that these are, as Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar has said, these are old historical facts which are coming out. You see things which have happened over time in history, and all those grievances are now coming out. Ultimately, I wish the UN General Assembly takes a strong action, actually puts in a peacekeeping force there to maintain order. But otherwise, more than that, I really don't see anything happening here. For Pakistan, I'm firmly convinced it is simply talk for its domestic audience. They are not going to put in troops there. And neither is Pakistan going to do anything on the Indian front. So they will keep talking. They're in a very precarious situation as far as they themselves are concerned.
Okay, all right. Just a minute left onto our show. Joyita and Sumit, just last concluding comments from you. And then we wrap up. Joyita, coming to you first.
Well, the thing is that when you look at it from the point of view of India, obviously it is better that the situation stabilizes over there, because of our interest in terms of the Chabahar port and that oil pipelines and all that, a whole lot of other reasons, of course. But having said that, here I think what is important is also what, of course, my co-panelists did talk about it, the role of the United Nations. You see, what exactly is the United Nations doing about it? Because you see, if the UNSC may be having a meeting, but as we have been seeing over the years, the increasing irrelevance of the United Nations is also coming to the forefront again. So I think this is one area, frankly, because I am now being reminded of, and particularly because I just wrote about it yesterday, so of Prime Minister Modi's statement at at the UNGA on Saturday when he talked about, how the United Nations needs to wake up to realities of the world and the changed realities. So I think, frankly, here the question of it would have helped perhaps India being on the Security Council, perhaps a little more push towards peace could have come and faster. Considering we are always facing some kind of a war-like situation with China. Anyway, we will see what happens after this.
Okay, Sumit, a minute left and then we take a break.
I think, Vineet, my take on this is, you see, with due respect to all the panelists, China has a tendency to fish in troubled waters anywhere in the world, right? So it will not miss an opportunity to get its hands there, else Pakistan has no business, absolutely no business to be there. Didn't China claim 45% of Tajikistan, which is illegal, which is, crazy. Now, isn't China trying to enter the Arctic Circle, which is the exclusive circle of Vladimir Putin? So, needling this war, suspecting or financing this or, instigating passions through Turkey is something which cannot be ruled out, because if they have border dispute with 20 countries in the world, if there are in every trouble in the world, you see a Chinese hand. Why can't we don't see a Chinese hand here? The timing is a suspect. Making Europe unstable, making oil supplies unstable, and giving its puppet Erdogan a face in the Islamic world is something what they might try, because and then they are pushing Vladimir Putin to back Armenia. He will be left with no option to back Armenia.
So Sumit Pearce, in fact, smells a rat when it comes to the timing, which he says is suspect. In reference to this clash between Azerbaijan and Armenia. We slip into a short break. Be right back.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.